In this panel, we have gathered some of the most experienced persons when it comes to identifying and supporting entrepreneurs and early-stage fintech companies. So I'm very happy to see you all on stage. It's Livia, Viktor Gällström, Michael Hansen, and Armando Coppola. And I will soon let you introduce yourself. And I will do it the way that you usually do when you work with startups, I guess. They have to pitch it to you. So if you pitch yourself and what you do, how would that sound? So let's start with Livia.
So thanks so much for the introduction and great to be here with all of you. So my name is Livia Moore and I can introduce myself first. So I started out in the tech industry about 10 years ago and I started with hardware. So my first venture was, I was a part of building a touchscreen watch called Mute Watch. And we sold this watch across the whole world. I then jumped over to the software side and was one of the early employees at Tigtail, where I helped to build the e-commerce platform and held various marketing roles. And then we opened up a New York office. I was there for a while. Then I moved back to Stockholm and led the marketing team at Fintech and open banking player Tink. So that's why I guess I'm relevant here in this panel. And after a while, I had a coffee with Lisa and Kel, who I knew from the Stockholm and also kind of US startup scene. And she had just started working at Antler over in Singapore, where she's a partner. And she told me about this idea of kind of building a model where we would help to match exceptional individuals with the right kind of drive to build defining companies. And I think just, you know, after hearing about this model and this idea, I was absolutely sold. So that's how I got into Antler. And what we do is we're a global early stage VC, and we invest in the world's most exceptional people that build groundbreaking tech companies that solve real problems.
And you've been running now for?
So we launched globally in 2018 and in the Nordics in 2019. So Stockholm was the second city in the world to launch our kind of program after launching in Singapore. And what we do is essentially we invest in and support in entrepreneurs. We go in with we're usually the first investor, so it's early stage, very pre-seed essentially. We go in with $110,000 and take 10% of the shares.
Right.
And we also obviously support these entrepreneurs. We're very hands-on when it comes to helping them build everything from form their team, build their company, and then scale it globally through our global advisory network and global platform. Okay. We're now present in 14 cities, and we're essentially building the world's largest early-stage investment platform.
Cool. Thank you. And what about you, Viktor?
Yeah, so my name is Viktor Gällström, and I'm one of the co-founders of VNTRS. VNTRS is a Stockholm-based mix of a digital agency and a pre-seed investor in startup technology companies. And we are around 50 people now in the Nordics and in the Baltics, and we have a portfolio of 22 early-stage tech companies, which we have helped support as an operational sort of VC, where we go in with time and resources to help the companies get to from 0 to 1, basically. So the vision is to help transform great ideas from entrepreneurs into successful businesses.
Right, and you've been successful.
Yeah,
I
think we've been quite successful. So it's been we started this company 4.5 years ago, and now we have quite a good blueprint, and I'd say it's going well.
Okay, you're on a good track.
Yes.
Yes. Armando, what's your pitch like?
Yes, thank you for letting me be here today. My name is Armando Coppola. I've been working in the financial industry for 13 years in the digital banks, as we call it in Sweden, trading platforms. But in the DNA, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been starting about 15 companies myself, and now I'm working at Wellstreet. Wellstreet was founded 5 years ago and has since then invested in 45 early stage companies. And we have since then also been able to build a platform that's both digital and physical. And in the physical platform, we have a house a little bit outside the city central. That's a 6-floor glass building with 14,000 square meters. Right. Intended to be the biggest and largest tech hub in the Nordics. That's our vision.
Where is that? Outside of Stockholm?
In the proud equality commune of Sollentuna.
Sollentuna.
Yeah, remember that.
Remember that.
Yeah. Both me and Viktor comes from Sollentuna.
It's like Singapore, Sollentuna.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
There's where the fintech meets.
Yeah.
But I would actually brag about more of the compound of the team that we have in Wellstreet. All of us is entrepreneurs, and we have a lot of great experience. We have built fantastic companies in the team together that we can brag about. But I think the most important thing with the team is that we also did a lot of failures under the 20 years that we have been entrepreneurs.
Learnings.
A lot of learnings, and I think that's the superpower that we can give early stage entrepreneurs in our context. So what we're trying to do, of course, we are a VC firm that put money on the table, but more important, we don't have the blueprint, but we have a lot of learnings to give them in this early stage, what not to do when you're starting and launching a company.
Okay, thank you. Last but not least, Mikael, what's your pitch?
My name is Michael. I'm born and raised in an entrepreneurial family. I've done some 25 different angel investments in everything from VR games to mobile games to edtech to fintech, so all over the place. I've had for a number of years together with my partner Linus. I've had a house at Saltmätargatan in Stockholm, since 2006 actually, where we have incubated startups. We invest, we offer them a room, we support them with accounting support and stuff like that. So the founders from Klarna rented a room there when they started. Scribe and many others has been there. Right. Unfortunately, I didn't invest in Klarna. I invested in the guys in the room next door. They didn't do equally good. They did good.
But that's your claim to fame, that Klarna at least.
There are many of those close ones. And then for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been starting a fintech company called Capcito. We provide working capital to small and medium-sized businesses through a very automated platform, so different kinds of invoice financing products. And we envision a future where all businesses have easy access to fair finance. And we've invested so much in our platform that even the banks now want to use it, so we have licensed it to SEB. It went live March this year. So we're a little bit more than 50 people at Capcito at the moment, growing rapidly. Have 4 or 5 strong investors. So we raised 10 million euros to date. So that's kind of what I do. So I'm a bit of a hybrid.
A hybrid, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that's a good platform for the discussion in the panel. So maybe we should start with sort of the toughest question maybe of all. Namely, why should a fintech company or a fintech person who likes to start a company in fintech come to you? Who would like to start?
I guess I can go first. So I think what we actually do at Antler is that I mentioned how hands-on we are. And we do this sort of within the frame of our program. It's 6 months long. We offer 2 programs a year in every city that we're present in. And it starts with us going out finding exceptional people, really fantastic entrepreneurs, operators, technologists that have the drive, the grit, and the ambition to build something huge. We bring them together, roughly 80 people in each cohort, and that's where the journey starts. So many of these people, they come in with sort of an idea and an obsession about a problem, and as mentioned, this sort of hunger to actually solve that specific problem that they have a passion for. So we help them build these strong teams. We work with them closely to validate the problem, validate the solution, make sure that they're not sort of making those early mistakes that maybe many people have made before them. So in the team, we're a mix of sort of builders and investors with experience from either building or investing in high growth startups. And we also help them to, find the right go-to-market strategy, build the right business model, problem solve when it comes to how to scale, which market to focus on first. And after the first 10 weeks, we have our investment committee. So during these 10 weeks, it's sort of like it's hyper speed. They basically do everything from scratch in 10 weeks and come up with a solution and pitch to our investment committee. This is when we choose to invest in the best companies that have been really successful during this time and really shown that they're on a steep trajectory to basically winning. So, yeah.
But is it fair to say that you sort of go more for the persons than the idea, or?
Definitely. I'd say 100% that we invest in teams, not ideas. Obviously, at the very early stage, the idea isn't really worth that much. But the idea can change. And most likely, the idea will pivot at some point. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a small pivot or quite a, very large pivot. And therefore, the team and the people behind that, they're kind of... their passion to actually solve that problem or keep obsessing, keep pushing through even when it gets really tough is so important. But then again, of course, coming in with an idea can also be valuable because it shows that even though that idea is half-baked or even though maybe you haven't even started working on that idea yet, it shows that you have an interest in something. Yeah. You want to, you want to work on something specific. You have a belief or you have an area that you're very interested in and you have experience from that area as well. That's what we often see too.
And people coming to you, they are, as I understood it, they sort of quit their job, many of them, to go for this.
Yeah. That's the most common thing. They've somewhere along the line they've decided, okay, it's time for me to build my next company, and I know how I want to do it this time. I want to do it right. I want to make sure that I meet someone who has a different skill set. So if I'm coming from a business background, I want to find someone with a technical skill set, and it's important that I find someone who's equally able to be committed at this point in time and kind of give their everything.
Okay, so if you want to work with the right people, go for Antler.
Yeah.
And what about you guys?
When they're done with Livia and the Anther program, they can come to us Ventures because that's when we step in. So that's a great example actually, because we actually have some companies that we're working with that have been in the Anther program. And
you mean when they sort of grow up?
Yeah. So when they graduate from the Anther program, it's a team of 3 people maybe, and they want to scale quickly. We're gonna try to make them avoid some of the mistakes like you were talking about, Armando, that we also have done before and that other companies that we worked with have done. And so then we step in. They can come to us to get a little bit more of a context, and maybe they didn't have time to recruit the whole team and the resources they need. So we can go in with front-end and back-end developers and help they really, transform their prototype maybe that they built with you to a scalable, technical product.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically the...
So you're like a perfect fit in the chain.
Yeah, I think so. It's
all right.
Good match.
And where do you fit in, Michael and Armando?
Yeah, I think we always want to be the first choice for early stage startups, of course. When we think we can add some value to the company, that's very important for us. And I also think that in these early stages, it's very, very, very important that the personal level also works, because when we go in this early stage, we need to understand the product, the market, and so on. But of course, in the due diligence process, we also meet the company, the founders, and look at how driven they are and how much they understand the market. So we are an extended part of the team when we go in the investment. But I think the hard fact is that why they choose us as an investor in the early stage is often, if we look at the Fintech in this case, it's that the team at Wellstreet today has actually been building products, implementing products, and selling products to banks. And that's what they actually see a great value in the early stages, that they need some help with the commercialization, the market offering, and building the...
But are you more niched to just fintech, or?
No, we have fintech as a niche. So we have a program in Wellstreet named the Fintech Loft, where we work with only fintechs, and we also have other investments, of course, in other verticals. E-commerce is one example where we really like to invest because we understand the e-commerce market very good. But that's the hard fact, I think, why they come to us is because they see a value in our expertise in selling and implementing products in banks and financial institutions.
All right. Okay, thank you. Michael, how do you feel about this?
I think investing is always about the team. That's harder to change. You will face, that you said before, that business model will have to be tweaked one way or another. Hockey sticks won't appear when you expect them to. They will come a lot later. So things will be more challenging than you expect. So investing is always about the team. You want to have the right team. I would say it's the same about the investors. If you have two investors with the same equal tickets that they can invest, or one is maybe a little bit bigger, the other one a little bit smaller, I would always go for the one that can take me to the next level. So who can open doors to customers, to new investors, to new people, who have a brand name that can attract other people to work with me, who can support me when shit hits the fan and things are not becoming as expected. Mm-hmm. So I would always go for that in the same. So when I'm recruiting someone, I want to take reference calls on that person. I would do the same on the investors. I always want to find investors that can support me and my team to reach the next level.
So it sort of goes both ways.
It goes both ways. Yeah. And that, to me, is sometimes more important than getting the highest valuation or the biggest ticket. The people that can help me to the next level, that's always where I go for. So, and that will pay off in the long run.
So how do you feel about if we sort of focus a little bit more on fintech and the fintech industry sort of? How do you feel that Stockholm or the companies that you're working with, how's the interest and how's the sort of this, what do you call it, like the seeding ground for new fintech ventures?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Sweden has, I lived in Hong Kong for a couple of years ago. Sweden has a very, very strong reputation. Wherever you go, Swedes are very, good people. They're honest. You can trust them. They're good at doing business. That comes from the Industrial Revolution, or when the Swedish industrial groups started growing. So Swedes is always good wherever they go. Sorry, I lost it there.
I totally agree with you. And it's you can't forget that Sweden has been an exporting country for over 300 years, beginning with the steel and wood and seeds and so on, and then later on furnitures, cars with companies like IKEA, Volvo, Ericsson, and of course we're known and we have it in our DNA to export companies, and I think a big thing around that is because we are a small population. So a lot of tech companies in the later days, they actually have in the business model to export themselves. But Sweden is a fantastic country to produce companies from because we have a good infrastructure. We have a penetration of the internet and the population for 97%. We have mobile bank ID where you can identify yourself with your mobile phone and so on. So it's very easy to launch a product in Sweden, but the business model is very usually they have export thing in the business model.
And that's fed into the fintech startup scene. You have Klarna, you have iSettle, and all of those success stories with lots of people who have worked there, they have experience, know how it works. And so you have the strong reputation on the international scene, and you have all the fintech ecosystem here and all the startup ecosystem. So I think it's a great platform to start doing fintech innovations in. And you have large banks that can support. This is a great place to start a fintech company.
Yeah, you agree, Viktor and Livia?
Can only agree. No, but the infrastructure, like you said, we have the Swish and Bank ID. Everyone has it. We have the sort of role models in these Klarna and trustly companies. So I think it's a great place to be for a fintech entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the main reason why Sweden has such a strong ecosystem is because we have, Klarna, iSettle, Tink, Trustly, and that sort of becomes the spillover effect from people coming from there who maybe think, okay, it's time to build my next thing now, or a thing of my own. That really feeds innovation, and Anyfin is a really good example of that. And I think you see that same process and structure internationally as well. Primer is a good example where the two founders came from PayPal. So I think that really, it's super strong.
But can you sort of, like for instance in Antler's case, you've been running now for 4 years. How do you sort of measure that you have like that many fintech companies, edtech companies, and so on?
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's estimated that roughly 14% of global venture is fintech, and that's actually reflected pretty well in our portfolio as well.
Yeah.
We have 29 fintech companies out of a total of 228 that we've invested in globally.
Sort of 14%. Or
Almost 14, I think.
All
it's
right.
like 12, 13 something.
Okay.
So I think it's strong, and I think also if we talk about sort of trends, I mean, there is obviously this big trend now that fintech is everywhere, and I think we're seeing also that more and more companies will have to essentially turn into fintech companies because of the need to embed financial services into their products.
All right.
So whether that will mean that they're categorized as a fintech in the portfolios now or perhaps in the future, we'll have to see.
Sort of everyone has to be there in some sense, maybe.
Exactly. Everyone has to be a fintech somehow.
So what about you? Do you have like the same sort of analysis when it comes to how many fintech companies you work with?
Yeah, we have a strategy to have the program Fintech Loft, and that's 100% fintech companies, of course. But we have a portfolio today of 26 companies, and about 6 of them are fintech companies.
Yeah.
We are more sector agnostic when it comes to industries, but we also have done fintech investments in ventures.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So how do you feel about, I think it was you, Viktor, who talked about this being an operational VC or working sort of more hands-on with the startup, because VCs are, of course, not only about money. How do you feel about, is that sort of a trend coming, or has it been that for a while?
I mean, I think that is a trend that's on the rise. I think, like you said, I mean, there's a lot of money out there.
Yeah.
And I think that even though there's a lot of new entrepreneurs and companies, I think that the supply of money is at least as big. So
money is not the problem.
No, I don't think so. I mean, in some phases of a company, yes, money is still hard to raise.
Yeah.
Like in the early stage, valley of death kind of. But I think that if you can bring something more to the table than just money, you have a great edge. I mean, not only in getting the deals and winning the investments, but also in actually creating a good performance in your portfolio. Like for example at Ventures, we're very hands-on with the company. So we see any red flags appearing, we can pick that up and change it and mitigate problems that could otherwise turn into bad investments. So I think that's a great for us at least. So.
Yeah. So how do you guys feels about that being more operational?
Yeah, I think it's a trend for sure. If it's successful, yes, it is, and that's why we started Wellstreet 5 years ago, because there was a gap in the market, a lot of money in the system, but nobody actually took the role as operational VC. So I love it, and I hope there is more companies coming up like Ventures and Antler. We need more of these kind of operational VCs in the market in different verticals. Fintech is just one of them. So I really think it's a trend. But you also need to walk the walk and not just say that you are operational VC, because that's also a trend, that you use the word without doing the work behind it.
All right. So you have to be able to roll up your sleeves and go for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every day.
There's also been many of the VCs today, they have partners who are ex-founders who have done the journey themselves. So they have the experience. They've been through hell and success. So they can share that experience. And I think that's what's happened also. But there is Andreessen Horowitz in the US has been very successful with supporting for really big tickets, blitzscaling startups. They support them with everything. So when you start talking about going international into Europe or Asia, they say, okay, we already prepared the Rolodex for you. Here are the meetings you have to do. And so they're kind of already in advance supporting you with what you need to do. So they don't not only chip in the biggest tickets, they also give you the best support. So I think that's what's happening, and that's what driving value faster for the investors, and startups succeed faster. So that's what we're seeing, and that's now coming down to early stage as well. And I think it's great for everyone.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was living in the US back in 2014, that was like a pretty hot trend already then. You were talking a lot about operational VCs, and obviously Andreessen Horowitz, like you mentioned. Then also Project A, that we had the opportunity to work with back when I was at Ticktail. They were obviously also pioneer in that area, where they kind of they could send sort of a whole marketing team to the companies that they had invested in, not only sort of giving guidance or tips and tricks, but actually working super hands-on. So I think it's interesting to think about, okay, if you want to call yourself an operational VC, how are you? What's your within that realm? What is it that you do really good? Is it that you're super deep in a special kind of vertical and you really know that field, or is it that you work very closely with the people, like that you're actually great at working and kind of getting the best out of people and helping them to become the kind of best version of themselves, or is it that you have like a very big staff and that you can actually come and help the teams do some of the work on the ground?
Okay, so we got about 2 minutes left for this panel, and talking about trends. What's, besides being more operational, what's the biggest trend that you see sort of affecting your work today?
I think actually Michael is a great example for a trend that's
He is the trend.
He is the trend. No, but I think what Michael has done with Capcito is he has a proof of a great entrepreneurship and a great tech product. And I think the trend to do what Capcito has done with SEB, this is what we want and needs to be happening in the future to make fintech actually being successful. To come closer, not see the banks as a competitor, instead of try to build companies, fintech startups, and integrate and implement them in the core banking industry, because that's the foundation of the financial industry. So I think it's a
I
great
can
work.
sign off to that. I had a meeting with the head of business banking for one of the largest Nordic banks 2 years ago, and he said, "Yeah, this partnership that we're discussing was, something very exciting." And he said, "We can't do everything alone." And I said, "Yeah, I've heard you have 500 products, and each one of them is a potential fintech startup." And he said, "Yeah, you're right about that, but you're wrong about the number. We have 5,000 products. Each one could be a fintech." And if you think of it, if you're a large incumbent bank and you have 5,000 wars to defend or battles, that's a bit of a challenge. So you need partners. And so I think that's a great opportunity for fintechs to partner up with banks or other institutional, institutions. There are so many opportunities out there. So go and find them. They're not your enemies.
Actually, I think that's a good way to round off this panel. So thanks a lot for being here.